Hey guys, this is Ash and you're watching Writer Ash. So today I'm doing my Orilium Autumn Equinox / August wrap up, and I read a lot more than I thought I would this month, and I'm really happy with my progress. I had a bit of a reading slump in the middle of the month, so it really helped that I read a lot of graphic novels this month to get myself to feel more motivated because it made me feel more accomplished. So without further ado, let's get into the books I have read this month. I participated in the Orilium readathon as my main character, Ashlyn, and she does have other side characters, but I'm not playing as them during the readathon. I might read for them casually every once in a while, but they're not my characters for the readathon. But that being said, let's get into the books I have read this month. So I started off the month with a really short book. It was 15 pages and it's called Warm Up. It's kind of like the 0.5 book, kind of introducing the villain's world for like the Vicious series. And it's by B.E. Schwab. I gave it a 3-star. It really doesn't have much, I don't have much to say about it other than it basically focuses on a specific EO, extraordinary, and we get to see Eli for the first time at the end, and that's all that happens. I don't want to go into anything else because, well, one, it's 15 pages and that's basically the entire story. Two, spoiler, I guess, that's also literally the synopsis. But the second book I read this month was Wishes, which is like the official first book of this series. Wishes follows Eli and Victor, who used to be best friends, but now they're on the opposite sides of a thing. Eli kind of hunts these extraordinaries, and Victor and Eli are both extraordinaries. Victor went to jail for a lot of years because of things that happened in the past that we find out throughout this book. And we kind of see Eli as the person who is working with the cops to like control the extraordinary stuff. But we also kind of learn that there is no hard and fast rules about villains and heroes in this book, because frankly, everyone's a villain. So I think the series title does fit this series aptly. That being said, it was a good series. I really did love the first book. It was so interesting. I was really into it. And I gave this book 4 stars. After that, I decided to read the comics Extraordinary. There are a total of 5 issues. And so it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I gave it all of them, I believe, 3 stars. They were good. I even loved that in one of the books, in one of the Extraordinary volumes, we got to see Eli and Victor again. So that was great. It follows another extraordinary and her journey into finding out she's extraordinary now. And it's a kid and it's really good. It's a very quick read. It's 30 pages a book, kind of a quick read. And then, oh, I forgot to mention, in Vicious, we also have Serena and Sydney. They're sisters. Sydney is a child and Serena is her older sister who is working with Eli on killing extraordinaries. But so Eli tries to kill Sydney as well, and Serena tries to help Eli in doing so because she wants to free Sydney of this thing that's happened to her. So it's, like I said, everyone's a villain. Anyway, so the next book I read was the first volume of Izombie. I needed a quick necromancy book, or was, yeah, I think it was for necromancy. And I thought it was okay. It was 3 stars. It's about this gravedigger who's a zombie, and it just really made me want to watch the TV show Izombie. I watched the first couple of seasons back when it was first airing, and I really loved it, and I just was excited to get back into it, and I watched the entire series. The first few seasons are great. It kind of goes downhill later on. I think the essence of the show, the lighthearted cop show where the zombies eating brains thing, it's no longer there in the later seasons. So that's something I really missed in the later seasons. Anyway, that being said, the next book I read was Vengeful, and Vengeful is the second book in the Vicious series. And Vengeful basically is a few years down the line from where Vicious ends, and I thought it was completely unnecessary. I don't know why. Vicious, yes, it had some loose ends, didn't need a follow up. I did give it a 3 star because it was still a decent book. They were this book should have been a lot shorter and should have focused more on just the original characters instead of introducing all of these new characters, giving them perspectives. It just felt unnecessary, but it was okay. The next book I read was The Dating Plan, which is the second book in the Marriage Game series. It is a brother's best friend story. She had a crush on him growing up. He went away. They meet again in their 30s and have a thing. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It had an Indian main character and it had like the good girl, bad boy trope as well. But I really like these characters. I love Sarah Desai's female protagonists. I read all 3 of these books in the series this month, and all of the female protagonists were chef's kiss. And the men, not as much. The women were amazing. But no, the main male protagonist in this book was also good. And The Dating Plan also has the fake, like, marriage of convenience trope. So they decide to be fake engaged because she wants to get her family off her back. He wants to fulfill a clause in his grandfather's will so he can get his inheritance. And it just is a really good book. You can see things from their perspectives. There's the whole self-sacrificing hero aspect to it too. So it's a good book. Anyway, so the next book I read was The Marriage Game, and The Marriage Game follows Daisy, the protagonist in the last book's cousin, and basically she has come back home after a disastrous breakup that went viral and lost her job because of it, and she decides to start her own business. And her dad, who has just had a heart attack right after she gets there, had signed her up for like these like prospective meetings with these potential matches so she could find someone and be happy. And she decides now that her dad's not doing well, she's going to give it a shot. And enter the male lead, who is an absolute dick. I absolutely hated this guy. I don't know why. I really, like, there were good, cute moments, but he in general did not give me good vibes. He was selfish as hell and unlikable. Anyway, so they like have a bet that if he can help her find a potential match, she has to leave the office, and if he can't, then he has to leave the office because there is a lease issue, because he signed the lease, but obviously her dad's in the hospital and forgot to tell him that he no longer had the office that he leased because he was giving it to his daughter so she could start a business. But it's got like the enemies to lover thing going. They have a bet going, so it's fun, like trope wise, and the story is great. It's just he is not great, so that kind of stinks. Anyway, so I gave Marriage Game 3 stars. The next book in this series, well, the last book in this series since I read it out of order, is The Singles Table, which follows another character who is kind of related to the other 2 protagonists, female protagonists, and she meets this guy at a bachelorette event and they're playing paintball and they instantly dislike each other. And then they meet again at the singles table. And she is kind of like a matchmaker. She likes to pair people up with others and find them their perfect matches. But for herself, she just doesn't think that's something that's ever going to happen. And he, well, isn't looking for any of that, agrees to let her find him a match if she can, and in exchange he's going to introduce her to his celebrity clients. He works for a security company, and they have a friends with benefits relationship develop from it, and it's pretty fun. I gave this book 5 stars too. I think he's better than the male protagonist in the marriage game, but the protagonist in the dating plan is definitely up there with him. This guy was really, really nice. So, yeah. Anyway, so the next book I read was Unraveled at Dusk. And this is the second book in the Blood of Stars series. And this book picks up where Spin the Dawn leaves off. I can't talk about it without spoiling it, but Spin the Dawn's about this girl whose father is a master tailor. And when the king's men come to get her father to participate in a competition with the king to become the king's personal tailor, she goes instead by pretending to be a man, because women are not supposed to be tailors in this world, because it's like ancient times. Anyway, so this is a Mulan retelling, and she has this innate talent that is overlooked because she is a woman. We also meet the Lord Enchanter, who works for the king and emperor, and yeah, he decides that for some reason to help her through all of these ordeals, and figures out she is a woman quite early on, and it's just an adventure. This book picks up right after that leaves off, so I can't really talk about the things that are happening in this book without spoiling that, so I'm not going to. But I gave this book 4 stars. I think the first book was definitely better, but this was okay. I think it could have been paced better. It could have been shorter, or it could have been clearer. A lot of things happened, but you don't really experience any of it. So what's the point in reading it? Okay. The next book is The Chaos Kind, which is by Barry Eisler, and I gave this a 3-star. It is kind of a crossover event. I don't read all of his books. I only read the Livia Alone series, and this is part of that. And it's just a kind of like a spy detective, kind of those kind of book. It's about this guy who is kind of like a Jeffrey Epstein, and he's in jail, but he has incriminating videos of really important people. So he kind of needs to get out of jail, so they try to kill the attorney who is prosecuting him, but these operatives kind of intervene. And there's a lot that happens that, I mean, you know, it's just it's a thriller. Anyway, so the next book I read was See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I love the X talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, so I was really excited about it. And the ending of this book was fantastic, but I could not get into it. So this book is kind of a Groundhog Day situation where these two kids kids, they're only a few years younger, where these two college students get stuck in a Groundhog Day kind of loop and relive their first day, well, not their first day, the first Wednesday of college over and over and over again. And it's the story of them trying to get out. I enjoyed the end a lot, but because of the loop situation in this book, I think it felt very repetitive. It could have been shorter because it didn't need to have all of those middle days. Because, well, it would have been great to have those days if things actually happened. A lot of them were kind of useless. Anyway, so the next book I read, I Love You, I Hate You, by Elizabeth Davis. It's about 2 lawyers who work for opposing firms, often butting heads in the court, who randomly have like a one-night stand, and alternatively, they're also friends online but don't know they're friends online. They talk on Twitter and interact with each other like really close confidants of each other, and it's just the contrast between how they act in real life and online completely different. And it's just them starting to open up to each other in real life as well, and then obviously whatever happens. So it's an enemies to lover book. Gave it a 4 stars. It was really quick. I wish it was it had more, but yeah. Okay, so the next few books I read are this manga called Spread and Soap. He's a soap maker, and it is an awkward read. But there are 11 volumes, and I read all of them. And I think I gave it like a 2.5-ish on Goodreads 3 stars with like 2.5 stars. The book I read was Crazy Rich Asians, and the first one, and then I gave it a 3 stars. It's about this girl who goes home with her boyfriend who goes to her boyfriend's home for the summer and discovers there's a lot of things he was hiding from her. If you've seen the movies, he's a better character there. He prepares her for none of it, throws her to the wolves with no warning. And yes, he's very willing to like stand up for her and all, but he's also a clueless dumbass in situations here. Like, you prepare your girlfriend if you're gonna throw her into a situation like that first. And a lot of the characters in this book were so unlikable. Gave it a 3 stars, and took me a long time to read it. The next book I read was Volume 2 of Izombie. It is basically continuation of that. So Gwen, the zombie, has a relationship with a zombie hunter as well at some point in this series. So it's got similar elements to the TV show, but very different. Anyways, and then I read Izombie Volume 3, gave both of these 3 stars, and then I read more of the soap thing, more volumes of that. And then I read China Rich Girlfriend. I actually like this book a lot more. We find out about Rachel's father in this book and kind of explore that as well. And Nick has a backbone in this book and is an actual supportive partner. I gave this book 4 stars. We also have stuff happening with Astrid and all of that. Oh my god, the Astrid storyline. That woman deserves so much better. Anyway, I then moved on to Rich People Problems, which is the final book. This one I didn't like as much. This whole series started off as a story for Nick and Rachel, but in this book they became such minuscule characters, or well, not they. Rachel became a minuscule character. I know it's supposed to focus on the Singapore world and all of that stuff, and Nick is dealing with stuff with his grandma in this book, but to completely sideline Rachel felt kind of to me. I feel like they were such a central part of the book. They should have stayed somewhat central in this too. Nick is still central, but Rachel has been completely moved to the sidelines in this book. And yeah, we focused more on Kitty Pong than Rachel, which I was like, what? Anyway, Kitty became quite a big character in this series as time went on. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you've seen the movie, this series moves away from like the Rachel and Nick love story completely as time goes on. God, and then this book, oh my god, Astrid's situation would make my blood boil. Anyway, and then the final book I read this month was the 4th volume of Izombie. And yeah, it also involves an apocalypse. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler because it's pretty much from the beginning of this book. But anyway, so that's all I read this month. I think that was a total of 30 some books with all the volumes of all of these comics counting. I will count them because I read them. But I did think some books were great, some were duds. And I didn't describe it per prompt for Orilium this time around because there are too many books to like look back through all of the prompts I read for and then remember the authors I read it in. So I'm just telling you what I read this month, and then I'll just put my TBR, planned TBR, in the cards above. I stick to it mostly, so. I will also add that with all of the quests I completed this month, I am now a paragon for the House of the Arcane with my character at the end of this equinox. So when we come back for spring equinox in 2023, I will come back as a paragon for the Arcane. And I am excited for that. Anyway, so that is it for this video, and I will see you guys later. Bye!